Hello, in this demonstration, I am going to build up layers of dimensional interest using gesso, transparent paint, and thicker impasto, or actually dry brush paint. So it's going to be in three parts. Some of you have seen this already, but I felt like I needed to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to use a cereal box, which may seem strange, but it's got a slick surface that I can really move this gesso around on, and I can carve back and have layers of dimensional interest, which would be the text and some of the imagery on this box. So first I'm going to coat the whole surface of my cereal box with gesso, and there's already dimensionality occurring there. I'm going to coat the whole surface. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to use unconventional tools here to work the gesso. So I'm going to use my wood graining tool that I got at the paint department of the hardware store. So there's one. Okay, then I can just use a ratty old house brush to kind of scrub around and create some brush texture. What I'm doing here is I'm planning ahead a little bit. I know that when I add some transparent high flow acrylic, or you could just do transparent paint, it's going to seep into those crevices and pick up on that texture. I'm going to use my barbecue stick here. Just scratching some texture. And then I was drawn to this, I don't know, scrubbing brush, dish brush. Okay, that makes a nice texture. I've got my sawtooth palette knife. So right now, I'm not even really thinking about composition. I'm just trying to see what are all the various textures I can play with. If there was a composition, it would sort of be just banded, these strips. Okay, so now I can scrape through. I can see part of the serial imagery. I can cover it back over. And I'm building up these thicker layers. Okay, so that is layer one, which most of you have already seen. Oh, a couple other things. Then I got my gesso in the squeeze bottle. I can apply that. I've seen some students using stencils. It's really pretty endless what we can do here. Okay, so that's layer one. I'd put that out in the sun to dry, which I've already done. So I have another one waiting in the wings here. And now I'm going to go to using my high flow, highly pigmented golden acrylic. If you don't have this, you could use acrylic inks, or you'd have to make some transparent washes with water. And I've got sepia, burnt sienna, Indian yellow, and Payne's gray. But before I go to that, I can add some more layers of interest by scribbling on here. I could use Sharpie, charcoal pencil. I could even embed things in the gesso if I wanted. Now, I played with this wax crayon, this China marker, going across these ridges, and you can see how it's picking up on the texture like a rubbing. Okay, so I can play with things like that. Then I'm going to go into my high flow acrylic paint. So I'm just going to drop it directly on there. And mush it around with my brush. going to actually let some of the colors blend together. Here comes my burnt sienna. Sepia, and I'm kind of letting it soak in there. Indian yellow. So I want this layer, this second layer, to be transparent because I want the paint to soak into some of these areas like a stain, but I want to pick up on that texture. I noticed some people are going to thicker paint and losing their texture. So I want this to soak in. Okay, then I can take a damp rag and I can pull, just very lightly, pull some of that paint off to reveal some of the textures a little bit more, some of the writing there, even mixing the paint, manipulating it a little bit. It gives a feeling of almost like I've carved into that paint. Okay, so I think you get the basic idea. So that would be step 2. Again, I'd let that dry. And then I'd go to my final step, which I have not covered yet. So here's another one that I have waiting in the wings. And now what I'm going to do, and I'm just working kind of intuitively here. This is dry. It dries pretty quickly. Now I'm going to dry brush over the surface. I'll show you to grab and pick up on some of the raised texture. I'm just going to put my paint off to the side here. So dry brush means exactly what it says. You're using a dry brush, no water. And I usually tap in on that top edge, a little bit of paint. You don't want it globby. If it's globbed like that, I can pull some off to the side. Okay, then I'm going to use, it's the low 45-degree angle, and I just drag across. And I can start lightly at first if I want, and then go a little bit more firmly. I can bring it up slowly. So now paint is interacting. I've got the darker colors below peeking through. I'm going to add this ash blue color. I'm at the end of the tube there. Again, my low 45-degree angle. Trying to drag across and get this wood grain texture. Now I'm getting a little more aggressive. There's not even that much paint on the brush, so I can get a little more aggressive here. I can kind of scrub around. That's called scumbling. Okay, so you can see the look of the painting is totally changing. The great thing about this stage is I can even go over with more layers of dry brush. Okay, I'm going to put a little red in this section here because I got red here and red here. Ideally, I might have another new dry brush, but I'm just working with these two. Okay, so I'm going to go across the top here. So this is small amounts of paint, but I'm dragging it. Okay, here, I'm going to pick up on these super raised edges here. I'm going to go a little more dramatic so you can see that. Going a little red there in the sky. And you can see how the painting has changed a fair amount. I'm really scrubbing more now. I'm scrubbing right in there. So I can go back and forth like this for quite a while. Now, then if I wanted to, here's another dimensional layer. I could go a little more impasto, which means it's like pasta, thick, right? So I could come in again, it's a big glob of paint, no water, low 45-degree angle, lightly pull and drag. And that paint is going to slide right off my brush in a big glob. And then I can come in and do, I can work it a little bit more with the tip of my angled palette knife. Now I'm scraping in again, continuing more dimension. And I think I'll stop there. I'm clearly getting carried away. Here, big glob of impasto paint. So now what I've done here, I started with a very dimensional gesso layer as a structure. I stained it with transparent paint, dry brushed, thicker, more opaque paint, heavily layered. So that really is a lot of the painting process, working these layers back and forth. When this dries, I could stain it again. On and on it goes. But I hope you get the idea. All right.